Welcome to Imperfect Momming. Our children are constantly looking to us for examples. The term role model doesn't quite cut it here. We are shaping their worldview with every move we make. You see, it's not in the lectures we give or moments where we are actively attempting to teach them. It's in the micro movements we make, the unconscious ways in which we navigate life. We are constantly teaching our children how to show up for themselves, their friends, their future partners, and even their future children. So what can we do to ensure we are raising thoughtful, compassionate, self-aware human beings? We have to become them ourselves. No one is perfect, but we can still all be better, and it starts with self-healing. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Imperfect Momming, and we have a very special guest today, Jennifer Senn.
Awesome. Yep, Senn.
I always say somebody's name
so
wrong.
Easy that it almost makes it hard. Yeah.
Right? It's like, wait a second. Is there like a silent G in there?
I don't. No, it's just how it looks.
All right. So Jennifer Senn, welcome to Imperfect Momming.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I love anything to do with mommies, and it's such a blessed journey, hard and fun journey in my life. So I love being here.
Yeah. One of my girlfriends this morning sent me a message, and I think she's like 2 hours ahead of me. And so she'll send me a message at like 3 in the morning because she gets up at 5. She might even get up at 4. I don't know. She said, have you downloaded the Momentum extension on Google? And I when I read it at 3 in the morning, because my phone died and vibrated and woke me up, I looked at it and I was like, Mom Entum? No, I haven't seen that. But I only saw the mom, and I was like,
Mom,
you know that your life is wrapped up when you see mom everywhere.
It's such a big part of who we are, for sure.
So tell us who you are and what do you do?
Okay. Well, I am a grief coach for parents of stillborn babies. And so my journey was sort of, I owned a business for several years. I had 2 little boys, and I had a set of twin girls that were stillborn on my 3rd pregnancy. And, it's gutting, of course. And I ended up having another baby shortly after, within the year. I had another baby and really just did a lot of work on convincing myself that I was okay. This was fine. My life is how it's supposed to be now. Everything's great. I'm just supposed to be happy. That's what everybody tells you to do. And so I ended up going to a business conference several years later, and we were asked to do a vision board. And I had nothing. I couldn't even construct a vision of what I wanted next week. And that was really the first time I was ever introduced to a coach. There happened to be a coach at this event I was attending. And, so she kind of was seeing that I was really struggling with this exercise. And what I found out was that because of this experience, I really tried to pretend it was okay, but I was holding myself back from any kind of a future. I was so afraid of the future. I was so afraid of, allowing myself to dream and have those dreams shatter again, that I just really played it safe. And so what I realized is that I was holding my kids back from reaching their potential. I would eventually just put them in a pigeonhole and make them be safe. My marriage wasn't as great as it could have been because I didn't I just wasn't willing to take any risks.
Yeah.
And so that was when I really realized how powerful coaching was. And maybe there's some other moms too that are living this reality, right? Like the pregnancy loss is so common, and most of us just silent suffer through it. So that's how I became a coach, and now I get to help women through their journey.
Here, I had about 47,000 thoughts as you're telling your story. Like, I was like, oh, I could say, oh, I could say, oh, I could do that. A guest of mine a couple episodes ago was a coach for moms who struggle with fertility. And I think she has a podcast too. Maybe you guys can hook up, because I would imagine that struggling with fertility and then having, losing a child is just, happens. And, there's, I thank you for sharing your story, and for, taking your pain and blessing the world by leading, help guiding other people through what you're going through, or what you went through. You're my favorite type of people, because there's so many people who go through it, and it destroys them. And then there's when I believe that the reason that you go through it is to help other people go through it. So it hurts my heart when it destroys them, because that's not the purpose of going through it. And I hope that doesn't sound insensitive to anyone that is going through it, that's struggling, that's like, and you feel like you're being destroyed. My intention is not to sound insensitive, but to, there's a reason, and you like get through it, like you can do it, because there's people on the other side.
Yeah. And I think, just having that realization of what if I didn't hold myself back? What if I did dare to live a different life than to just be miserable? And, I had to get to that point where I knew it's what my babies wanted for me. I knew it's what they wanted for the family. And, it really, like, I can say now I'm living a life like I never thought was possible back then, because I was so rooted in fear and what was going to happen to me when my kids left me and when they all grew up. And, and oh my gosh, fast forward all these years later. I mean, my son he spent 5 years in Puerto Rico going to college there to be an eye doctor. And it would have never happened had I not gotten the help that I needed to kind of just get past that grip of pain.
And I know that you said before we hit record that you were listening to my podcast episodes, and all of my podcasts are pretty much pre-recorded a month or more in advance. And so 8 weeks ago, I think, I gave birth to a set of twins for a single mom here locally, semi-locally to me. She's about 3 hours away. And they were twin girls, and she had a miscarriage early on in her pregnancy, and then decided to go the surrogacy route. And it was a girl, and it was, I don't know that I've shared this on the podcast, but when she miscarried, a friend of hers who's kind of like a spiritual medium, she said, that soul's going to come back to you. and they implanted one egg in me, and it split into two. And I was like, oh, well, there she is. She came back.
Oh, just get the chills. Oh my
Right?
gosh, I really just got the chills all the way through. That's amazing. Oh my
It said
gosh.
that the thing that she was most upset about in her miscarriage was that she was never going to get her two girls,
Two
because
girls.
two embryos that were girls, and she implanted
Mm.
one, and the other one was with me. And so when she lost that one, she thought that she wasn't going to get her two girls, and she got them
Oh
just
my
at the
God.
same time. Yeah.
That's so amazing. What a beautiful gift that is. That's incredible
Thank
that you
you.
were
It was.
able to do that. And oh my gosh.
I'm currently in the hitting factory reset on my body right now. It's like, I wish there was a button that you could push, like turn your computer off and on and make it work again.
Yes. Yeah, that.
So I'm kind of in that phase. It's just not as quick as the off and on
Wow.
of the computer, but just kind of loving on my body and giving it,
Yeah.
everything that I need. Oh my gosh, that was weirding me out. There's like noise over my shoulder, and we had a storm here last
You never
night.
know.
Yeah, we
We
had a
did
storm here
too.
last night that blew off the screen of the window,
Oh,
and
wow.
my boyfriend is putting it back, and
Yeah.
I was like, what, there's noise over there. It sounds like it. I was like, oh, are we having another storm? What's happening? So
Um,
I think you were talking before we hit record, you said something about support for moms going through what you
yeah,
went
I
through.
mean, I really think um so many times there's just it's such an isolating experience. There's really no one to talk to. Um, in my family too, my mother had a full-term baby before me that was born stillborn. So my mother knew, but of course, we're groomed, I was very well groomed to you take care of other people. You don't worry about yourself. Your job is to make everybody else happy and take care of others. And so I really didn't talk to my mom a whole lot about it because I was worried about upsetting her and bringing her trauma back. So it just was a very isolating experience. Most women too find that their husbands deal with the grief a whole different way, which is really hard to understand how they could feel so different about the same loss, but they do.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I mean, just getting support, preferably from someone who's been there,
Yeah.
is really one of the only ways to expedite your healing. I mean, you could do it, but it takes a long time, and it takes a toll in every area of your life, and it's with you forever.
Yeah.
You know?
Well groomed to take care of other people. I think that's a quote.
Yeah.
We are, and we forget
Yeah.
about ourselves a lot.
Yeah.
And and you bring up a really good point that we don't want to upset other people. And I'm currently coaching with someone on it was kind of a passing comment when we were coaching together. We're like, we wanted to amplify, I wanted to amplify happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something, and he said, well, go check out through your day where you feel like you're suppressing happiness, and like just take mental note. And I was like, I don't have any recollection of like suppressing happiness. And then we started talking about the how are you, when somebody asks how are you,
Mm. Mm.
how it
Yes.
feels to me, where I will suppress most of the time. I want to say I'm doing amazing, but my response is usually I'm good, I'm okay, I'm fine. And
Ooh, yeah.
even in this the same feeling that I get if I say, I'm doing great, and the other person says, oh my gosh, so such and such is like awful, and then I feel that feeling, it's very similar to how I feel. I'm hearing your story, I haven't experienced it, I'm like, oh, that would be devastating. Why was I so happy in the intro of this call? I should have tempered myself. Like those kinds of like thoughts and feelings, because I want to be a good person. And a good person doesn't make another person feel bad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yes. And so if we continually keep ourselves down and safe and comfortable, then we're pretty sure that, we're not ever going to be too much for someone or not enough.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a really, it's a tough role, especially when you're the mom. If you're grieving, or if you are, having a bad day, like it's just really, it's hard because you want to be on at all times. And really what it teaches your children is that pain isn't real. It would be okay to share that with your kids if you are going through a season of grief. But
so you were saying, okay, I wanted to ask you about how you were holding yourself back. But before I ask that, and I say it out loud so I don't forget it, is what are some of the ways that you were holding back and not showing your grief? Did you ever come back and show them your grief? Or I'll let you answer that question.
yeah, I did. Because when you're in those childbearing years, it happens to other people. It happens to people and so here you are again, but you're looking in at someone else going through that pain. And in our church at the time, we had there was a woman who had a loss, and even our pastor and his wife, they had a loss. So it was kind of the three of us all at once within probably that year. So yeah, I did try to really keep it together, but my kids know, and they know now, and they knew then that I was really emotional. There were our times, even now, where I react really emotionally to things. So yeah, I mean, I did, but I think the day-to-day stuff, is just like, you're just trying to get through.
Isn't it interesting how we try so hard not to be emotional. We try so hard to be robots.
Yes.
on one setting all the time, and it's like that's not the human experience. Like, like you lost your babies, of course you're going to be emotional, and but we try to hide it because it's not acceptable. It's not. And I lost a friend 4 years ago. Anniversary is coming up in a month or so, and I remember I was very emotional about her passing. It was very sudden. It was not expected at all. She was only 44 years old. And a friend of hers came over, and I said something about, the only reason we knew each other is because we were mutual friends with her. And so I said something that I started tearing up, and I would not have said it to anybody. Like, I said it to her because I knew she'd understand, and I started to tear up, and she held up her hand and she said, "Don't." And I was like, well, if I can't be commiserate around you, like who can I commiserate around? And
Yeah.
it shut me down for several months because I was already someone who was shut down emotionally, and I was starting to feel more comfortable, and it was like, let's just stop feeling, don't do emotion again.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and I was in coaching at the time, and she coached me through it. But it was hard. I mean, that's it was hard for me to understand that that was her not wanting to feel,
Mm.
not about not letting me feel, you know. But we do this to each
100%.
other.
Yeah, it's because it's a really grief and loss is a really uncomfortable topic, no matter what the situation is. And yeah, I mean, no, it just really makes people stand at attention when when you dare to share with them
Yeah.
what, what has happened, or what this, this big life altering thing is that happened in your life. They want to feel for you, but they're so scared, and they're scared that you'll cry. Because, when we're growing up, what's the first thing that happens when we cry? When we're little kids? Yeah, stop crying. I'll give it or in my house, I'll give you something to cry about.
Right.
Right? Like, yeah, like
Yeah.
we're shushed at any signs of emotion. So why wouldn't we feel that way?
Right. Yeah. It's very, I forget about, I'll give you something to cry about. That is, yeah. I mean, because for me, I don't know that I heard that. I know it was a saying, but I don't know. I don't have a specific time that I remember hearing that. But I remember my brothers would tease me for crying, and I thought it was, about the crying, which part of it was. But my brother and as adults talked about it. He goes, it was just, you cried all the time. Like it was so annoying. But he was 5 when I was born, so
Yeah.
he'd already gotten the programming of don't be a little girl and don't cry, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It's not mature to cry, because mature people don't cry.
Right.
Mhm. Which is not
We won't go down that rabbit hole.
which is so not true. No.
So you said earlier that you were suppressing yourself and stifling yourself, and there's some people that might be listening who are also doing that and not
Mm.
realizing it. So what are some of the ways that you were stifling yourself?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was the most shocking part to me, because I had really convinced myself, and I think a lot of people do. You convince yourself that you're doing fine. It's better, things aren't as raw as they used to be. But I mean, one thing I know in my marriage was I wouldn't even I think probably overall it was I was hovering my children for fear of their life.
Mm,
I worried incessantly that they would die.
yeah.
I I couldn't go through it again. So I worried all the time that I would lose my children that were living, which then led me to my husband would love to have gone on a little weekend getaway, and I would not. I could barely go out for a night out, dinner, and leave them. And then in my business, I noticed it as um wanting to please everyone at the expense of my business, right? Like I I was much less concerned about the profitability and making sure, all the business things, and more concerned that everybody saw me as somebody that was successful or happy or a leader or whatever, whatever you want to be. And so it was just kind of eroding all of these little areas of my life and myself. Like, I blamed myself for so long. I carried guilt. I was sure that there was something I did to cause it. I was mad at my body for betraying me. So I didn't take care of myself. I just really just kind of existed.
Yeah.
And I guess some of that was I didn't feel like I felt like I was really damaged and broken. I didn't feel like I was worth anything more than what I was doing, that it was good enough. I was okay with good enough. And, until I had someone kind of tell me, like, you get to cry. It's okay if you cry. You get to feel these feelings. You get to feel anger. You get to feel scared, but you also get to feel excited and hopeful and, just a dream of the future, which is something I just really, really was having trouble doing. So, yeah.
So glad there was a coach there at your
Oh
at your
my God.
event.
She was amazing. I worked with her for years, and I still absolutely love her. But yeah, she changed my life because I had no idea. I had no idea it was happening to me, which I think was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, the no idea that it's
Mhm.
going on are the most dangerous.
Yeah, you convince yourself of all kinds of things.
So where would you recommend um, that a mom going through loss find support?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a friend, talk to a friend that has been through it, if you can. Lots of times if you are going through a loss, people come out of the woodwork that you never knew because, we keep this secret. And but lots of times people will kind of show up, and that's what I wanted when I was going through it. I loved to have people come to me and say, "Hey, this happened to me too, and you're going to be okay." That was what I needed more than anything. And of course, it's been 23 years now, so there was no social media, there was no cell phones, there was nothing like that. So I was kind of limited to, there was a little support group through the hospital. I did try therapy, but again, if they haven't been through it, it's a whole different experience. So that's why I created what I do now, because I think I can help them with the coaching, with my experience, start to break through those things that are holding you down, holding you back, and get back to living.
Yeah. Because I would imagine that a piece of you stops living when your baby is stillborn, like, or a child passes or whatnot.
Yeah.
It's getting harder and harder for me to see, I watch like Special Victims Unit, and it's my little guilty pleasure, and there's that and my soap opera. Those are my guilty pleasures. But I start to empathize with the characters in a way that I never used to. Like, I was my kid and my boyfriend are both like, I don't know how you watch that show.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, because they're characters, I like the characters, and there I like a little bit of drama. as long as it's not in my life,
Yes.
And I can separate. But if I at all put myself into a parent losing a child's mindset, I'm like, I have to turn it off.
Yeah.
For like, there's an episode of Special Victims Unit that I can't watch while I'm pregnant. It always comes on when I'm pregnant. It's the craziest thing. It's when Elliot Stabler's wife is pregnant for the 5th time and gets sideswiped and is in the car and goes into labor, and her legs are like pinned together and she goes into labor. And I'm like, oh, if that happened to me, it would be awful. Like, and I have to turn it off,
Yeah, you just can't even. Yeah.
And I don't have that kind of, I like, that's why the wall goes up. So like, I can't put myself into those situations. But anyway, I don't know where I got off to that topic.
No, I think I think this experience is something that, it's funny because a lot of my clients too, they'll say like, oh, well, everybody says to me, I can't imagine what you're going through. And I said, but here's the thing, that they can, you kind of you can imagine like, oh my gosh, I have this one child, and what would happen if, or many children, how would you ever survive that? But it's kind of the unthinkable, but you do. And the blessing in it for me is that I think it made me, even though I was super overprotective, I think it made me a really, like, I was there every minute. I made sure that I was savoring every single minute with my kids, because I knew the other side of it.
Yeah. That's actually, it probably did make you a better mom once the fear side of it dissipated. And that was something that I did when when my grandma passed away. She had Alzheimer's for like 15 years, and I would visit her, and I stopped visiting her when she didn't remember who I was, because that was so painful. It's like, well, why am I going to subject myself to that? And so then when she passed, I really regretted that decision. And she was my, so then I only had one grandma left.
Okay.
And one grandparent left. So I poured all of my attention and grandparental love into her. And I said, I'm not going to feel this guilt again. I'm going to know that when this grandma passes, whether it's sudden or takes a long time, that I did everything that I could to let her know that I loved her, and to, get as much of her wisdom as I could. And and when she passed, I felt complete in the relationship. And when my dad passed, we got a warning that the medication that was preventing his cancer from spreading stopped working. And so I made choices. When we got that notice, I was like, he's got 6 months to a year, and I'm going to do everything that I can to spend as much time with him as I can. And so I took my son over there, and we would have dinner once a week, and we started reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, because C.S. Lewis was my dad's favorite book. And we just spent time together, and when he passed, I felt complete, and I felt like I did everything that I could to let him know that he was loved. And we can't predict most of the time when a child's going to pass away, but we can have that approach to life it's like a preemptive strike. It's like, then you don't feel as guilty if something happened. I can only imagine.
Right.
But that from my experience, that's, this morning when I was waking my son up, you have two choices when your kid doesn't want to get out of bed. You can yell at them to get out of bed, or you could climb on top of them and give them kisses until they're like, oh my gosh, I have to get out of bed
All
just so
right,
you'll
I'm
stop
getting
giving me
up.
kisses.
Yes. Aw, yeah.
And that's how we woke up this morning.
Yeah. I love it. That's good. Sweet.
Is there a piece of advice that you want to share with moms listening?
Mm. I would say the piece of advice would be honest with yourself. Are you, is there something that you're struggling with that you are just trying to stuff down? And you will know because it keeps bubbling up. And so I think really be honest with yourself and what you need, and then find help, ask for what you need.
Mm.
I think we don't do that nearly enough.
Yeah, I think that we are afraid of the don't
Mm-hmm.
reaction from people if we bring stuff up.
Yeah.
So find the safe person. And if you don't have any safe people in your life, that's what coaches are for.
Absolutely. Yeah, because they're objective. Yeah.
We've done the work and we can hold the space for the emotions that you're afraid of.
Yeah. And nothing surprises us.
Right. Heard it all.
Yeah.
Is there a book that's been instrumental in your personal development journey?
I love The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks.
Mm-hmm.
My coach diagnosed me with an upper limit problem. Once I started getting things put back together in my life, and I was really starting to gain some ground and be successful and be happier, I would instantly take myself out. I would instantly self-sabotage myself just out of safety, because I didn't want to, again, though that fear was coming back in. So that book was so helpful to me, The Big Leap.
It's in my Audible, I'm 99% sure, and I've never read it or listened to it. I know. And every time I look at it every once in a while, I was like, I should read that. And now I think that this is the universe reminding me, you should read that.
It's time. Yes, it's so good. Yeah. I actually read it about once a year just to really refresh, because there's so many good. It's one of those that every single sentence is just like, oh, yes. So, yeah, it's good.
With that kind of endorsement,
I mean, I know. I
how
wish
can I not?
an affiliate link or something.
Right? Perfect. So, where can our listeners find you?
So probably my website is the easiest. It's jennifersenn.com, SENN.com. I do have a podcast called Navigating Baby Loss. And I actually just launched a new quiz, which I'm super excited about, that allows you to, depending on how you answer the questions, it creates a custom healing guide for you, and with all kinds of different resources and different things that you can do to kind of know what that next step is going to be for you on your healing journey.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so that's been fun.
I'm fascinated by people who have quizzes because I don't even know where you would start to create a quiz.
Well, it's a project, but
I bet
it's a labor of love for sure, but I think it'll be really helpful. I'm excited.
Well, thank you so much for this
Yes.
beautiful co-created episode and diving into one of my favorite topics, which is suppressed emotions and
Oh,
expressing emotions. And we are an unexpressed society,
yeah.
and the more we can express, the better, the more healing that you're going to have. And so I appreciate your time and your energy and what you're doing in the world. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the way you're supporting moms so beautifully, and it's so needed. We all need it, that's for sure. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we'll have another episode of Imperfect Momming for you all next week. And until then, keep healing. Bye, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to Imperfect Momming. It's time for us to step up and realize that our power is not in trying to shape our children. Our power lies in shaping ourselves into the people we want our children to model themselves after. Don't just do it for your kids. Do it for yourself. When you become a more self-aware, compassionate, and confident person, you and everyone around you benefit. For more information about me and my work, visit AlysiaLyons.com. That's AlysiaLyons.com. See you next time.